Welcome to Bene Naras and my basement, where we discuss all things Latin and writing and books.
I'm Rachel Cunning. Welcome to my mountain, except it's not my mountain because I share it with other people.
I'm Ben Belzer-Carroll. I don't live on Rachel's mountain. I am actually in my basement right now because there's a guy hacking up my kitchen at the moment. And you would all hear construction noises. But I do have a surprise today that is not actually a surprise because you know about it, and also we discussed it in advance, and it's our planned story for today, and also everyone can see him.
Wait, is it your husband?
Yes. Surprise. Say hi, Ben.
Hi, Ben.
This is Ben, whose major qualification is not that he is my husband, but rather that he is a middle school Latin teacher at Trickham Middle School, home of the Tigers, where you do have to leave before dark because otherwise the coyotes will get you. And he's working on his first novella. He's been incorporating some CI stuff into his classroom for a while now, although he has not been traditionally a CI teacher. He's moving in that direction. And this is his first work, so he's here to hang out with us.
Hey, guys.
Hello!
I'm really excited to be here. I have been a fan since day one of the program. And it's nice to be here with the celebrities and talking books with y'all. I've got a germ of an idea, I guess, that of a murder mystery that I've done a little bit of work on, and would love to have y'all's thoughts and you pruning shears for.
We do have pruning shears. I also have a chainsaw, so those are true statements. We're excited to have you here. And it's so great that you're working on your first novella and that you are okay, in fact, with pruning shears, because that's a thing. So can you tell us a little bit about your book and the kinds of goals you have for it, and what questions or problems you're running into as you've been working on it?
Sure. So I wanted to structure it like a game of Clue. You know, a body is discovered, each character is introduced to the audience, and the reader gets to investigate. And so in this version, a consul has been found dead in the middle of his atrium, and the poet detective Marshall has to go interview various members of the familia to determine how and when and who and why killed the consul. I put some stuff on paper, but the main problem is it's not good. And I'm having trouble with a few things. Specifically, I'd like to figure out how to set the tone effectively, get my mind out of the teach grammar mode, and work on limiting my vocabulary while still managing to write descriptively.
And I love those problems because those are super reasonable and common problems to have that everybody struggles with, especially with a first novella. And tone is such an umbrella, so it can go with vocab, syntax, characterization, dialogue, movement, and like other things as well. It all goes together. So a lot of writing is kind of a web like that. So today we're going to structure our episode a little differently because we have writing to look at. So we're going to break it into mini episodes and chunks and topics so that you can focus as a watcher or a listener to our thing on YouTube, in whatever order that you want to listen to and focus on.
We have two major goals today. The first one is we want to help both Ben and anybody listening troubleshoot those really common issues that you mentioned, and also help you frame your ideas more successfully so that you feel like you're getting across what you wanted to get across. And we also want to accomplish this in such a way that Ben will still love me when we're done. To that end, I have made some cookies just in case. So I'm gonna go ahead and throw your first scene up here so that everybody can see it. Voila. That first scene. Ben, can you give us a quick overview of the scene and what your intent was for it?
Yeah, this is the introduction, first scene of the book. We meet all of the characters, find out whose body it is, and then Marshall comes in and observes the cast and starts to think about what's going on.
Awesome. What is the most important for you for your reader to get out of this first scene?
So, like I said, I kind of want to set it up like Clue, where there's a bunch of different characters and they've each got something identifiable that the reader could choose to investigate in any order that they want. I'd like there to be a sense of mystery and discovery with the reader looking suspiciously at all these characters, imagining who might have done it. But I think I described everybody really formulaically. They don't come off so much as characters as they do props, and I'm not really sure how to turn them into characters. They got listed attributes and features, but they don't have character or personality. And so it doesn't feel like there's really an emotion in the scene, and that there isn't much of a tone set.
Yeah, I mean, I think you've diagnosed this pretty correctly. And I think maybe the first thing to notice is that you didn't actually answer Rachel's question. She wanted to know, she wanted to know what you want your reader to get out of it. And what you gave us was a really thoughtful process for how you set it up, which is really valuable. But I think it's also contributing to your tone issue. Either you aren't sure what you want the tone of your scene to be, or if you are sure, I'm not sure that you have it consciously enough that you can work towards creating it and that you can feel it. Are you aiming for mysterious? Are you aiming for tense? Are you aiming for aggrieved? Are you aiming for celebratory? Because right now, you're right, the tone is introductory. And it doesn't sound like that's what you were trying to achieve. So your first step for me would be to know how you want the scene to feel and then start feeling it. And then ask yourself what kinds of things happen in scenarios that make you feel like that. How do you want this scene to feel?
Tense, mysterious, full of secrets. I want there to be questions that the reader is invested in. Things being, just out of place enough that there's a story behind it, and then you want that story.
And that's totally what a murder mystery is: intrigue, suspense. Every now and then, a little bit of horror, but definitely intrigue and suspense and mystery and curiosity. So I think you do need to know what you're aiming for when you go into a story, and the tone is the attitude that you have as the writer to what you're writing about. And you have to build that into your characterization, your plot, your vocab, and your syntax.
And I think realism is a factor here too. You mentioned wanting people to want to know what's behind the story. And I think there's an extent to which you've gone beyond realism for that. So I think you need to ask yourself, how would the scene actually happen? How would people actually be acting? Where would people really be in a scenario like this one?
And I think a good example of the realism problem is that your cook is sitting in the impluvium, or impluvium. And I don't know whether I'm supposed to find it funny, or whether it's I don't know. It's not a normal place that people sit. And instead of curiosity, I'm confused because I don't know if it's funny. I don't know if it's serious. And if you're going to go for funny, the tone has to be clearly funny, so that people know they're supposed to laugh about it. So kids, this isn't a super high frequency word, then they might have forgotten what it is, and they might be sitting there being like, is this are they in the impluvium? Isn't that the thing where the water ate? And you want to make sure that the tone matches that, so the kids can be like, oh, the cook's in the impluvium, cool. And giggle about it. So you need a little more setup there.
Right. Sorry, did I cut you off?
No, go ahead.
And if you want people to be confused about it, then you need to paint the rest of the scene so that either she's confused about it or other people are confused about it or something. I think you're right. You need to stitch it together a little more.
Okay.
You've listed a whole bunch of places and objects in the house. Stews, Yanua, Liber. And it feels like you're doing it to teach those nouns instead of because it's actually what you need to happen in that scene. You can write about stuff without making a textbook vocab list. And you can teach about a house without making sure that you hit all of the rooms on that checklist. So when you do something like this, whether it's grammatical or cultural, I would heavily suggest asking yourself, do I have a plot reason for this? Like a real plot reason for this? Or do I just want them to know what an impluvium is? Because if it's the latter, then it's not a good enough reason to keep your story compelling. And I would axe the impluvium. And it's a question we have to ask ourselves in various iterations all the time. Why am I doing this? Does this contribute? Do I just want people to know it? And that may help you with getting out of your teaching grammar mindset too.
Fair enough. Yeah, I'm coming from a sequence where every Latin student knows the impluvium after 3 days, and I need to remember that's not the case. It was supposed to be funny and something to inspire curiosity, but I see what you mean about how it's just so wacky without acknowledging that it's wacky. So it would lead readers to feel very unsure if they actually understand what's going on.
Yeah, and understanding what's going on is pretty critical. And I think that your tone problem, like we were talking about earlier, is kind of connected to your characterization, because it's all a web. You gotta piece it all together. Pretend you're a spider. I don't know. But it's definitely related to the characterization, and the way you set up your first chapter is contributing, I think. You've tried to introduce everybody all at once, which can be super overwhelming and make it hard to make sure that you're all up in the feels of the scene.
It's going to be hard for readers to get to know all your characters in the space of a page. So it feels cramped instead of exploratory, because each of your characters, like Rachel pointed out, is a list instead of a person. I could see setting this up at like a party or something, either being in the midst of one or having come to a screeching halt because murder has that effect. And that would be a realistic scenario that would have several people present. Your detective can notice various people's behaviors or situations. But in the scene you've set up for them, this isn't a natural one. And so it's leading to an unnatural set of descriptions and behaviors.
Okay.
Yes, there's no interaction. Like we're all going back and forth. That's interaction, and that's natural behavior. And everyone is super formulaic. You've mentioned that they're more like props, and I think that that's exactly right. It's person A and place A with object A, and they're all interchangeable. And I think that comes back to your original idea of clue, and you might need to step away from that conception so that your story is a little more natural. And you could use Ariane's suggestion and have some kind of like party or event that would make it be a more natural situation. I kind of want to know what would happen if your character, Marshall, walked into this and two people are in the middle of an argument. Because what are they saying? What are they arguing about? What do they have in their hands? People gesture when they're angry and they do things. And that's very dynamic and would show a lot about your characters.
Yeah, I like that. You're right. That already sounds more interesting than what I've got down there. I guess the fact that I don't have like a ready-made answer is part of my problem. I should know what happens if Marshall interacts with these people, in a peak of fit. Y'all have talked about how you want to be able to hear a character's voice, so I think I will probably do some not for publishing scenes to kind of let me get to know them a little bit better, and start to hear their voices for myself.
It's definitely not.
That is awesome. Yes. So yeah, it sounds like you have a really good plan for moving forward and for getting to know your character a little better. That's a super important part of brainstorming and like plotting and outlining. So we've mentioned characterization a little bit here. And if you are also struggling with characterization, jump into the next segment where we talk about it even more. Until then, take a break for cookies.
Cookies.
Please feel free to join us.
Cookies.
Back shortly.